Hello, I'm Rowan, and today I am going to get way over my head in explaining polar to Cartesian coordinates in trigonometry, a class Mr. R never successfully passed in college. And we are going to explain how that relates to Vnyan and having your avatar move around properly. So we have this input-output set of scripting. It takes a base rotation left-right, a base rotation up-down, and it takes a move force. And what it does with those is it takes a sine, a cosine of each of these different angles, and it spits out an x, y, and z value. Okay, so how does it do that? Well, basically, when you move the custom I have to explain the custom camera, don't I? So Vnyan has a regular built-in camera, and it does its things very specifically, but there are things it can't do. Someone else has created a custom object that's a camera, and we call that the custom camera. You can get the scripting online for that little widget that you can import into Vnyan. That object allows you to move it around in the three-dimensional space. You really can't do that much with the Vnyan camera. I mean, you can move the camera around in X, Y, and Z preset locations, and that's the big problem. But the custom camera object allows you to do more. It's got more input and output because it's a custom object. So what does it do? Let's pop over. Okay, here we are. I'm sitting in the bushes now, and with this custom camera, I can rotate the camera up and down. I can rotate it clockwise and counterclockwise. I can change my zoom. And you see that I'm stuck in the mud here. It's because, quite specifically, it's got to do with the way that I set up for the screen. So this is all custom camera work here, being able to do this. This is an orbiting camera, and I set it up specifically like this so that I can do these things. Now, I don't expect to do all these things on the fly. I do know that I'm going to have to put together some more stuff so that I have automated motions that happen. But for now, I have got an input-output system that allows me to do these things. So that's what this scripting does. It allows me to do all those rotations, do the zooming, and eventually I'll be able to pan all over the place also. There's another camera I've created, another set of scripting, which I'm not going to be dealing with today, that allows me to do basically a drone camera. The camera that I'm using does come with scripting for a drone camera, but I didn't like the way it was programmed. Well, it's not that I didn't really like it. It's highly complicated how it was programmed, and it didn't do something that I wanted. So I'm making my own. That seems to be the way things go. So what do we have here? We have two different angles that get read, scripting that gets done to convert to cosine and sine of the base angles, and then it spits out values. So let's go down the line of the left-right rotation. Okay, we take our base rotation left-right, and we're adding 180 degrees because the camera wants to face the other direction. So now it's rotated and it's facing me. There's also stuff set up so that it's a certain distance away, and that's affected by that value there, move force. So the camera is so far away from me and it's facing me. Cam move left right. What actually happens here is we take the base rotation left right, we take the sine, we put it into the variable cam move left right. Then cam move left right down here, the next red box, is multiplied by the move force to give us the basic distance away from us times the angle, and that gives us the x value, the rough x value. That has to be modified by the cam move slowdown, which is the base up-down cosine, because the base up-down, depending on what angle we are up or down, changes the distance away on the x-plane and the y-plane. So, well, in this case, we're talking about the z-plane and the x-plane, the y-plane being the vertical plane. So our angle up is going to reduce the distance x, and because we're trying to get out the x number, so our distance up, as we go higher up in latitude, if we consider this to be like a globe, then the circumference around that latitude, the ring, becomes smaller at a rate which the cosine takes care of. And that cosine difference, the cam move slowdown, is the distance different between our base x on the x-axis and the x that we need to use because of the curve coming in. So let me see if I can keep that thought straight in my head and show you what I mean by that. So here, I've already drawn this roughly, and I'm going to draw over it roughly in a different color. We are going to do this in red, or something resembling red. Then we'll pretend that is z and this is x. And we're going to go straight forward, and that'll take us the full distance f if we were to do that. But we're not. We're having to deal with this elevation thing. So let's say that we're moving f in this direction, and normally it would reach here. If we were just going straight forward, we would get to here. But we also have the fact that we have an elevation involved. So as this angle gets bigger, what happens is that the linear distance here, in this case it's on the x-axis, becomes shorter. And in order to figure out what these distances are, that it's becoming shorter, we have got to take the cosine of the angle. So whatever angle this is here, we have to take the cosine of that angle, and that will give us this distance here, or it'll give us the amount to subtract from the distance here. Okay? I think I made that as clear as possible. it's hard to show it. But basically, on our left-right, we're taking the sine of our base angle, we're multiplying it by the move force to get our basic direction in the x, and then we're subtracting the cosine of this area here of the y to taking into account the fact that the distance needs to be shorter, because as we angle upward, the linear distance becomes shorter because we're on a curve, right? If we weren't on a curve, then the distance of our force would be greater. Let me show you that also. So each of these arms is the same length, no matter what degree we're at. This is F, this is F, this is F, and this is also F, all the way up to here. There's the same force, right? But because we're not just going sideways, we're going at an angle F, then what happens is the distance here becomes shorter. And as the angle increases, the distance here becomes shorter even more, right? And if we just went F all the way out here to F, or all the way out here to F, at whatever angle that we're at, then you see that as the angle gets greater, this amount of wrongness gets greater too. Yeah, so what that translates into is doesn't appear much on the orbit camera, but on the drone camera, when we're actually flying around, if we're at a 45-degree angle and we're trying to aim for a spot in the middle of the screen, then what happens, because we're all the way up here at 45 degrees, we have this huge gap between where we're aiming for over here, the center of our screen, and where we end up over here. So that's why we have that variable, the parameter for limiting our distance. Okay, so that's just going down the left-right. Going down the front-back, very similar, except instead of taking the sine, we're taking the cosine of the angle. Because, duh, you want to know the other half to do the math with to get your z value. So the red stuff is getting our x, our sideways value, and then the yellow side is using the cosine to get the value of the distance coming the other direction. And that gives us our z, or our front-back direction, compared to our x, our left-right direction. So that's what those two do. And now the third item, using the up-down, base rho up-down is base rho up-down times -1. Why times -1? It's got to do with the fact that we are flipping the camera around to see the front of me instead of the back of me. Where the camera loads in is a specific location, and yes, I could change it there, but I didn't. I'm changing that here. And maybe I'll change that later. And the reason why this is here is because I'd like to share this and have other people mess with it and come up with their ideas on how to do it. And, you know, if you want to just use this, use this. If you want to make your own, well, here's what I did. Now, what are these two things here? Camera head rotation. Those are pretty simple. whatever direction that we change the angle in is where the camera is going to be changed. But hey, look at these little numbers. 1 and 180. Yeah, they look eerily similar for some reason to a certain other set of numbers. That's because we have to rotate the camera to look at me. Didn't I just say that up there? Well, so there's the body rotation, which is what's happening there. So as the camera, let's go back to the chart. Hi there. So you see how I've drawn that camera with a little bit of rotation. Now, normally the camera would be facing this way. Don't ask. And it would have spawned here in the center, right on top of me, which is not where I wanted it to be. And I would have had to tell the camera to have a negative value and be back here to look at me, right? But then it would be looking at the back of me. So instead, I told the camera to have a positive value and spawn here. Normally it would be on top of me. I gave it a positive value. And then I told it to rotate 180 degrees. So now it faces me. But now I'm telling it to move to different XY coordinates based on angles I'm feeding it. And so what does it do? Well, it goes to here. And then it goes to here. And then it goes to here. And then it goes to here. But it's not facing me. So one set of information, the XYZ that I'm giving it, moves it along the surface of the sphere. The second set of information that I'm giving it tells it to rotate based on where it's on the sphere. So at 45 degrees, it's going to be here. But at 20 degrees, it's going to be here. Well, it would be here normally, but then I have to tell it to turn negative, or I have to have it to turn, 90 minus 20, 60, 70 degrees. Yeah. So that's what the second set of numbers is doing here. The change rote up, down, multiplied by 1. Why is it multiplied by 1? It doesn't change anything. Why? Well, it's because maybe sometime in the future I want it to change based on something else I'm doing. Instead of just having it just be a simple set parameter, I've got it as a parameter operation where it basically doesn't do anything. But that's fine. That's fine, because it's set up for changes in the future. And now, of course, the other part, the change rote left, right, that is plus 180 degrees base rotation. So telling it to do the rotation, so it's going to face me, and then I'm going to tell it to do that 180 degrees so that it really faces me. Because if I don't, it's not gonna. It's not. And there's some disastrous stuff that happens if you turn that off. Here, let's turn that off. Where'd I go? Where'd I go? 177. You can see I'm coming along the curve. I'm coming along the curve of a sphere to get to you. That's why that's there. this one over here. Now, the astute of you will have noticed that one's way up there at the top of an ordered execution. And this one down here, off of their heads, ordered executions, this one here is way down here after other stuff happens. But still base rotation, right? And then you see it's still base rotation. But what happens if we're at 179 degrees? Oh, did you see that? 17 degrees. That's 0, 45, 90. Ah, what kind of magic is this? Wow. It looks identical. Well, one of them is changing the base rotation from the base rotation. The other one's changing the change rote, left, right. And that's the base rotation which gets used for, oh, these other things. See, the change we're making up there affects things in the chain afterward. So base rotation feeds into, well, it gets changed, and then it gets fed into cam move, and then cam move is, of course, had a sign put into it, so base rotation gets a sign put on it, but it's called cam move now, and then all these things happen. But over here, I'm straight up changing change rotation left, right, which is not this stuff here. It's another variable entirely that's getting our base rotation changed. So that's where the magic is. When we actually assign things to the camera, here we go. Change move left, right. That was our X value, right? That's being put into here. Our base rotation does a bunch of stuff. It gets munged by being turned into a sine, being multiplied by the move value, and then having a limiter placed on it by y values limiter that's cosine, and then it gets put into here as change move left right, position X. So if I change base rotation all the way up there at the top, it goes through that column and comes into here, right? And it only affects the XY location, the X zone. Now, if we are talking about the change rote left, right, that's all the way down here, and that's changing the rotation on the X-axis. That's up, down, sorry, Y-axis. So change rote left, right only affects my rotation here. All right, and I'm sure that was clear as mud, clear as mud. But that's why these two things, even though they look pretty identical, I mean, this one you're taking a value base rotation and you're putting it into change rote left right with a plus 180, and that one up there, well, you're taking base rotation, just changing it 180. Well, why are you doing it twice? Well, it's because the value needs to be different for these different bits, and you saw visibly what happened. The change rotation specifically only rotates my avatar on the y-axis. And the base rote LR is the basis for all of these changes for the y-axis and for the x and the z directional changes, or the movement. Okay, so I am hoping this video is helpful. I will try to find a place to put the actual graph where I can share it for you guys if you want that, or you can take screenshots and make your own. So once again, I hope you enjoyed your time here. And I hope that wherever you are, whatever you're doing, you're having a great time. And I hope to see you again real soon. Bye.